was, in this Peace Corps village, very rural, no electricity, no running water, and I'm a vegetarian and felt like I wasn't getting the right nutrients. I was just eating rice and a lot of carbs every day. Some women in my village, what I could eat that would give me the iron, the protein, the vitamins, just like the nutrition that my body was craving. And they pulled these leaves off a tree and mixed it into this local snack called Kuli Kuli and said, eat this Kuli Kuli moringa, it'll make you feel better. And I was like, what are these tree leaves? Like, this is kind of weird, but totally trusted these women and was just feeling so lethargic that I would try anything. Started taking it and it had the most profound impact on like my energy, my digestion, just like my overall body felt so revitalized. And so I'm like, what is this plant? How can I get more of it? How can I get it to more people?
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Retention Chronicles. Lisa, thank you so much for being with me today. I am so excited to have you on the show. Tell our listeners who you are, what brings you to this seat today, and all about your brand.
Yeah, thanks for having me. My name is Lisa Curtis. I'm the founder and CEO of Kuli Kuli Foods. So we are the leading brand pioneering climate smart superfoods like moringa here in the US. I started the company 12 years ago after serving as a Peace Corps volunteer in West Africa, where I was first introduced to moringa in the form of this Kuli Kuli peanut snack. And I've now grown it to where we're in about 11,000 stores and available, across Shopify, Amazon, etc.
No small feat. We have a lot to dive into today. So give us a little bit more background around like what enticed you to kind of dive in and really create a whole ecosystem around moringa. Like I want to know a little bit more around, just like the startup. How did you decide? Where did you even start to invest? All of that stuff.
Yeah. So I will say that it sort of came from my own personal need in the sense that I was, in this Peace Corps village, very rural, no electricity, no running water, and I'm a vegetarian and felt like I wasn't getting the right nutrients. I was just eating kind of like rice and a lot of carbs every day. Some women in my village, what I could eat that would give me the iron, the protein, the vitamins, just like the nutrition that my body was craving. And they pulled these leaves off a tree and mixed it into this local snack called Kuli Kuli and said, eat this Kuli Kuli moringa, it'll make you feel better. And I was like, what are these tree leaves? Like, this is kind of weird, but totally trusted these women and was just feeling so lethargic that I would try anything. Started taking it and it had the most profound impact on like my energy, my digestion, just like my overall body felt so revitalized. And so I'm like, what is this plant? How can I get more of it? How can I get it to more people? And the thing that the women farmers, that I was working with really wanted was a way for them to grow more of it locally and earn an income by selling it to the US. So I said, no problem. I'll help you sell it to the US and had no idea what I was signing up for. But it's been an amazing journey along the way.
Yeah, no, that's a win-win right there, right? So tell me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is moringa is like the leaf that you talked about, right? And then Kuli Kuli is like a peanut. Is it like peanut sized? Is that
Yeah,
right?
so moringa, yeah, like you said, moringa is a tree that goes all over the tropics. So it's the leaves that are super nutritious. Kuli Kuli is a popular peanut snack throughout West Africa, and we named our company Kuli Kuli because it was this vehicle to which I was introduced to moringa and just like experienced this health transformation. And so we started a company in partnership with small farmers, the women in West Africa, to really kind of bring that health transformation to more people. And so use the name as emblematic of that. And how do we bring these amazing functional superfoods like moringa, like baobab, like so many of the other ones that we've added to our product line since in ways that really benefit small farming communities and help to transform people's health here in the US.
Yeah. Okay, sweet. So now I also like to give listeners context around the products that you sell. So you have a suite of products. Give us like the lowdown of kind of like different, I guess, categories or different items in your catalog.
Yeah, so we have two different product lines in the sense that we sell powders and we sell gummies. So within that kind of, we have like the pure moringa powder, which has been what we've been known for the past 12 years. Then we also have some really cool new products like our superfood lattes, which you can just like add to water and froth and, can give you everything from like, we have ones that are designed around energy, ones that are designed around sleep, ones that are designed around digestion. So like a lot of different benefits. And then our gummies have a whole line of similarly kind of like energy, calm, skin health. And so really our goal is to help more people access these functional superfoods. Some people who are like me, who are like, yes, I'm going to put this like earthy green moringa powder into my oatmeal every morning. And like, I love the way it feels and I know how to sort of like work with the taste. And then there are other people who are like, just give me a gummy, give me a latte, give me something that like tastes delicious, but I still really feel the benefits. And our whole kind of brand ethos is like nutrition you can feel.
Yes, I love that so much. Before you were even in the Peace Corps, would you have considered yourself an entrepreneur? Is owning your own business, establishing, operations from the ground up, was that always something that you were thinking about, or was it a total left turn?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think like a lot of young women, I would never have called myself an entrepreneur, but I would have certainly called myself like organizer, a leader. Like I had started a lot of different things, as early as like high school, where I like started this whole recycling and community service program at my school, like lots of things like that. And I think for me, the appeal of, being an entrepreneur and specifically being a social entrepreneur is like, how do I use market forces to create social change? And I've learned a lot over the past decade plus of building this company and sort of in between Peace Corps and Kuli Kuli, like while I was doing this in like nights, weekends, I did work at another startup for a while and got to kind of like fail my way forward on somebody else's dime.
And I love that you kind of made the distinction between like social entrepreneurship, using the market to enact social change. I love that so much. So I want to ask you one more question about that. What was the like process, I guess, of deciding, okay, I don't want to just be an entrepreneur and all of the craziness that surrounds entrepreneurship itself, but I also want to tackle, social change wherever I can. How have you kind of unlocked that different aspect of the business?
I don't think that was ever a question for me. I think, I really started this business out of a mission as opposed to like saying, I want to start a business. What business can I start? So I think the question is really like, I see this problem of here are these amazing, super nutritious plants that grow really well in places like, Niger, where I did the Peace Corps, but they're not utilized much locally. They're not really benefiting the local people, but they have so much potential to benefit so many people. And so it's like, how do I build something that like connects, customers in the US who want functional nutrition that they can feel with small farmers who want to earn a livelihood for their families, growing something that will grow even as our climate changes. So I think that's where, to me, the business came out of like, how do I solve this problem? I never sort of sat down and said like, okay, what are all the businesses I could start?
Yeah, and I really appreciate that answer. I think those are some of the best, most resonating messages when it comes to social change, right? Is when it's like you can see something happening and you're like, how can I bridge? How can I make that bridge? And how can I cross it? And Kuli Kuli is doing just that. So I appreciate it. Now we have the context. Our listeners kind of know more about you and your story and your brand, all the fun things that kind of give us the nice foundation to then dive into more of the tactical side of the business. So obviously customer retention is very central to this podcast, but I always like to tee it up by talking about acquisition, because you can't have retention if you don't have acquisition, right? So walk me through how you thought about customer acquisition. Has that changed throughout the years? Different products. Kind of give me overview, and then we'll kind of go down the funnel from there.
Yeah. So I would say, in terms of like how I think about customer acquisition, depends a bit by channel. So we're an interesting brand in that like we have a pretty sizable e-commerce platform, but we also have an even larger retail platform, right? We're in 11,000 stores. So I think first is like which customer are we talking to? Obviously, this is an e-commerce focused podcast. So I think when it comes to e-commerce customers, like we're really focused on like how do we get our product out there to a wider audience and how do we kind of tell the story of what the product can do, what the brand stands for, you know, where it comes from and the impact it has. And so we lean a lot into social to do that, a lot into meta ads, a lot into, just like having great and frequently updated social content, pretty much, most of it video these days. And I think then it's kind of like, how do we get from that like broad swath of brand awareness, like down the funnel? And down the funnel for us can either be like down the funnel of purchasing from our website, purchasing from Amazon, or purchasing in store. So a lot of our content will speak to both, where it's like, hey, we're having this flash sale on Kuli Kuli Foods, or like Whole Foods is having this huge supplement sale, come shop with me at Whole Foods or shop with me at Target and like find the products there.
Yeah, I love that. And yeah, definitely different by channel. So I'm glad you made that call out of e-commerce specifically, because we'll definitely hone in there with this podcast. And I think what's interesting is thinking about, even though you are, using e-commerce acquisition strategies, like we'll specifically say social media, how it still bleeds into your other channels when you're looking at purchasing, right? So once you walk a consumer down that funnel, it's like, okay, even though we're using perhaps a acquisition channel that you can, attribute if they go and shop on kulikulifoods.com versus if they shop online, I want to hear how you go about, I guess, planning the content. Like, are you looking at, okay, brand awareness, this is the message we want to get across when someone is just being introduced to us. And then education, where someone is engaging with our brand, this is the message that we want to show. We want to show them all the different attributes or show them all the different ingredients that we're using, whatever level of education. And then like for purchasing, what is that perk? What is that deal? What is the value that they're going to get back from the product? Are you breaking it up specifically by funnel content?
We do. So, we have like a content calendar and we plan out both like what's going on e-com and then what's going on in retail and then, what's going on in the broader world that we can tap into. And I think there's like different types of content for all of that.
Yeah. And would you say you mostly lean organic versus, like you mentioned, meta ads, organic versus paid? Do you happen to know like what the breakdown in terms of percents are?
Yeah, so historically it has been all organic. I think we are just now leaning more into paid, mostly because like a lot of our marketing dollars have been at point of sale and retail. And so the amount of money that we spend on e-com has been fairly small. And so most of the marketing that is like, the big off shelf in Whole Foods or the like promo in Target.
Yeah. Yeah. And that is so fair for like retail, right? Like people, sometimes don't realize, and this is, like you said, e-commerce focused podcast, but we talk a lot about just retail and the differences and the similarities. But the cost behind advertising in different retailers, the marketing budget, that is no small feat to to dedicate
Well, and
time
I
and
think
energy there.
I think the thing that's like particularly interesting for brands to be thinking about in this like CPG space is like the rise of retail media. So one of the things we've been really focused on is like how do we really leverage Walmart.com, Target.com, Kroger.com, all of the big retailers have been really pushing their .coms in a way that I think requires a lot of energy and focus and ad spend. And so, we certainly are continuing to lean into Amazon, but I think we're in a world where like Amazon isn't the only player when it comes to shopping for a lot of customers that they're like, oh, maybe I'll like order online and pick up in store, or, especially for Walmart, like where I'm going to order online and have it shipped and it's going to arrive just as fast as Amazon.
Yeah, that's a great point, Lisa. Let's pause there a bit, because even though it is more in the retail end of things, I think it'll be really interesting for consumers of this podcast to hear, how you think about differences and similarities, with an Amazon.com, Walmart.com, Target.com, because our listeners haven't heard that much on this podcast. If you can
Sure. Yeah.
describe kind of like differences, similarities, how you think about it, that would be great.
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the things that's super interesting to see is like how much Walmart in particular is leaning into .com. And I think they are like building a lot of features and some pretty like rich sort of advertising landscape to the point where you see a lot of the same features that you see on Amazon and with AMS. So I think that's been an interesting one that we've leaned into. I think certainly when you talk about Whole Foods, like Whole Foods being owned by Amazon has meant that like particularly over the past couple of years, you're seeing a lot more of a push on like what they call like Whole Foods Market on Amazon, and like how do you advertise to customers who are shopping not in store, but maybe doing like pickup, order delivery, that kind of thing. I think, for Sprouts, a lot of it is Instacart. And so like leaning into like Instacart to reach those customers and running ads and campaigns there. It has been fascinating to me to the ways in which like I think like retail and digital have kind of merged, and there's like every major retailer is like putting a lot of focus into how do we capture our digital share.
Yeah, and I mean it makes sense when you look at the market, right? Where retailers, especially during COVID, were losing a lot of business. And so they're looking at, the Shopify brands hosting their own D2C channel, but then the Amazons, and going like, okay, how do we build that so we can get a portion of the market that is still digital, but is also loyal to our brand, our storefront still. It is it's an interesting intersection of retail and digital. And too, like I imagine one of the biggest hurdles that I always hear is about retail versus, D2C or online is just not having your a lot of the data that you get from your own D2C channel. So I'm sure it would be interesting if, these retailers can figure out how do you get a little bit more data as a brand to then know who your customers are, where they're shopping, because I feel like that's where the digital retail landscape will really start to merge and be like, oh, they're becoming more and more similar.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I think that is, to me, that's like the biggest value in having our own Shopify store is like getting direct access to our customers and direct data and understanding them. Like I think those consumer insights are invaluable, but at least for us, from like a dollar perspective, like our website is dwarfed by Amazon, by Walmart. Like it's an order of magnitude different in terms of volume. And so I think, and for a lot of brands I talk to, like that's a bit of the trade-off is like, yes, we make a better margin, we get, direct customer connection, like through our own website, but like actually the way that a lot of people shop today is they like type something into Amazon, or they like, type it into Google or type it into Walmart,
Or
or,
TikTok.
or order from TikTok shop or from their like, Target app. So it's an interesting time. I think I've been really fascinated the extent to which we've seen a lot of brands that were previously just D2C entering into retail.
Yeah, I agree. It's kind of a shakeup, right? Where people are figuring out their next move. As we're talking about customer retention and kind of some of the benefits of being e-commerce versus retail, I think that parlays nicely into retention, because a lot of customer retention can obviously be enriched if you know who you're talking to, what they've bought, what their experience has been with a brand. So same question, but now about retention. How do you think about customer retention? We can specifically go e-commerce first, and then, how you think about it in retail, because I think that'll be a nice blend.
Yeah. So I mean, I think in e-commerce, I think we're very much focused on like finding new and enticing ways to bring them back. So it's like if having like a great email marketing funnel, having like flash sales, having things like that, sort of sending those out via SMS and email, um, to get folks to like come back. I think for retail, it's trickier. We don't actually know who all of our customers are at Whole Foods, Walmart, Target, et cetera. Like we don't have direct access to them. And so their retention is really about like, and we lure them back with promos? Can we, but that's kind of a combination of like, are we retaining current customers? Are we enticing new customers? You kind of don't know, but you see the sales going up to the right. And you think, hopefully something's working.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like I don't want to say it's like you're hoping, because obviously us being in these seats, it's like you want to be able to draw a direct line of this person did that, then they did this, blah, blah, blah. These are the steps that they took. But yeah, retail, it's finicky. It can be real tough to get that, especially on a massive scale across different stores, across different retail stores. So I think that is something a lot of our brands listening will feel in
For
terms
sure.
of, you know, relating to that. So let's focus on e-commerce for retention. You mentioned email marketing. I want to know, are you guys a brand that, we have these specific drip campaigns, and after we get someone, coming through, whether it's organically or through our ads, like first purchase, whatever that action or that trigger is it like drip campaigns all the way, or are you more like, just firing off specific seasonal campaigns or whatever else? How do you kind of break up, these are the emails we want to send?
Yeah, it's a mix of both. I mean, we have, like your welcome series, your sort of like abandoned cart series. I think we have a lot of kind of a like basic campaigns set up. And then we also, because we have products that are like great for different seasons, like we have, powders that are great for smoothies that like definitely during summer we like promote those more. And then we have our superfood lattes, which kind of have like a season of, winter, fall time. And so we do different promotions based on kind of what is most appealing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that totally makes sense. And not even just the seasonality of the products, but then also seasonality of, I guess, like the human experience or timeline of Black Friday, Cyber Monday. Like we're filming this right now in August, and it seems crazy to say, but the holiday season is approaching, and that's kind of, the
Totally.
Super Bowl of this industry. But because you have a product that is, able to be used year round. Sure, you have some seasonality with the products, but I'm sure there are people who are like, I want a latte every day, or I want a smoothie every day. Do you find that do you guys run specific seasonal campaigns when you look at timelines, for like promotions and, ways to draw people in during the holiday season?
We do. Yeah, we do definitely, drip campaigns and like photo shoots around the holiday season. I think it is interesting being a wellness brand. Like our biggest months aren't just November, December. Like we're not a gifted product as much as we are like a new year, new you. So like January, February is really kind of where our products start to shine. I kind of think of it as like there's like a sweets season that's like Halloween through, Christmas, Hanukkah, and then people are like, okay, back to health. And like back to health is where we tend to shine.
When it comes to retention in terms of the post-purchase experience, because obviously that can look different based off of if it's a first-time customer versus, a long-time customer or a repeat customer. So what's kind of the messages, the emails that your customers will get post-purchase? I'm definitely always interested in this, because that's where my full-time job, Malomo, sits, of like maximizing that retention. So I always like to ask people of, what is it that's working? What are you guys trying to do? The message that you want to make sure people are, staying excited while their order is being delivered, all that fun stuff.
Yeah, I mean, certainly think this is an area we could get better at. We have, a bit of a like welcome, I don't know, whatever series or new order series that
Like
like
order
differs of
confirmation and
order
stuff like that. Yeah.
confirmation, all of that, where we try to do like, spice it up with some marketing. So it's not just like, here's your order, here's your tracking number, but it is certainly, I think, like an area where we could do more.
Yeah. And that's totally, I think a lot of brands feel that, right? Where it's like, okay, I know that the transactional experience can be better, or like it's something on the to-do list. Like I hear that all the time. And I know we were talking before we even hopped on this call, like there's always so much to do, right? So it's like, how can you check things off the list? And I think if you have customers who are coming back and shopping with you, that's such a good indicator, right? Of saying like, okay, we are retaining them just through our product alone. And we know that. And now we can build on that strategy, optimize, do all of those things. So that is a totally, totally valid answer. And along with that, I like to ask before I kind of start rounding out this episode, is there any like retention plays that you've seen either through Kuli Kuli or other brands where you're like, that is so smart. Like as a consumer, I shop with them because of this retention play. Yeah, kind of like a favorite case study maybe, or like just a favorite idea that you've seen that you really, really appreciate. And it's okay if there aren't any that come to mind.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there are certainly a lot of like full on D2C brands that do this much better than us. I think one of the things that I'm always interested in, particularly when brands find a way to like merge sustainability and retention, where it's like, hey, you buy this like laundry detergent, but here's like the refillable version, or here's your pill jar or your like powder jar, but like here's the bulk size that you can refill. And it's definitely something we've thought about of like, is there a way to like do that?
Yeah.
And we I think our Shopify isn't big enough to really justify it quite yet, but I think it is interesting where you can like retain customers who kind of align with your sustainability values as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, I love that use case. I definitely shop with brands who do that of, refillables from the jar or the container. And as a consumer, I always appreciate, that extra added effort of I'm shopping with you again and again, and love when there's like a refillable instead of, packaging or whatnot that you're disposing. So that's a great answer. I love it, Lisa. This has been so fun. I am
Yeah,
so
thank you.
excited to get this out there. Thank you for joining, taking the time. I know it takes effort and energy, so I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Awesome. We'll talk soon.